Hi, today we're going to take a look at how the English teacher is measured on his or her performance in school or in the classroom. Let's take a look at performance management system for the English teacher because I'm an English teacher and how we can enhance teaching excellence in the classroom. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the context for a performance management system or the PMS. It is crucial in many organizations to direct employee efforts to achieving organizational goals, and that is the role of a well designed PMS. A well designed PMS will do all of this following. It aligns the goal of the teacher and the organization, and it gives a lot of clarity to the role of the teacher and all of the employees in the organization. It also makes for effective performance appraisal. It motivates the teacher if rewards are worked into the system. There's professional development. It improves the teaching quality, and that's also student engagement. What are some of the key performance indicators or KPIs that the employee or the human resource manager should use? First, we should look at student test scores because this is what a good teacher is measured for, that the student improves in his or her academic pursuit. We also take a look at classroom observation ratings and student feedback surveys. How is an ESL teacher or English as a second language teacher evaluated? This is the process for evaluating an ESL teacher's performance. First, we look at goal setting of the teacher, regular observations, self-assessment, as well as feedback sessions, and finally, the annual or mid-year performance appraisal. This makes for the entire process of evaluating an ESL teacher performance in school or the classroom. Let's take a look at goal setting. It is important for the teacher to succeed, and therefore we should all set specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals, or what we call SMART goals. It is smart to set SMART goals. It is also important for the school to consider how these goals align with the teacher's and school's objectives. When the teacher successfully achieve these SMART goals, then can we get a happy teacher and a happy student. Classroom observations are also important, or what we call teacher evaluation. Usually, this is conducted by your direct supervisor or manager, like a head of school, an academic head, or even by your peers. Now, this is an important part of quality assurance because it ensures a consistent, high standard of delivery as well as to check in on whether the teacher is sticking to the syllabus that is set by the school. It is also part of the PMS. There should be a well-structured rubric to assess teaching methods, classroom management, and student interaction. And it is also important to make known this structured rubric to the teacher ahead of time before a teacher evaluation. A standard practice in many schools is to use the 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy, as you can see in this graphic, to test the students' comprehension and to assess whether or not, more importantly, whether or not the students has got the skills to apply his knowledge in his tasks or his homework. People in supervisor or manager roles should also often receive training in rating and providing feedback. This is to ensure that there is fairness and greater accuracy in the entire process of giving feedback. Peer evaluation, that is a fellow teacher evaluating another teacher. Now, this is a little tricky because if you're evaluating a friend, then very likely your evaluation will be favorably biased and little bit lenient. For example, you may inflate your ratings because we are friends. So in JEB, that has got a 100-year history in JEB studies and research by these authors, Varma, Buddha, Woodward, and Dinisi in 2008. This research shows us why in some parts of the world, raters intentionally inflate ratings, because in this part of the world, it is not, people do not give negative feedback. They are encouraged to inflate the ratings because negative feedback is not practiced in these parts of the world. That's what I'm saying. What about self-ratings? The teacher is also encouraged to reflect on his or her own performance. In fact, they should have, at the end of a teaching day, they should probably journal and write down what their key takeaways from a lesson would be. And so you find that this is one way of reflecting on our own teaching practice. The quality of self-rating can be improved if this is kept confidential and future focused. Therefore, I say journal because this is like keeping a diary. The employer can and should provide guidelines for self-assessment, including strengths, areas for improvement, and even an action plan. Now, this can be in the form of a survey, like in my school, we practice surveys a lot, right? Like we are encouraged to submit a skills audit survey. In fact, just very recently, like yesterday, the school leadership emailed me a skills audit survey so that we can have an honest appraisal of what we are good at, our strengths, and also talk about our weaknesses so that we can receive some form of training in the form of professional development. Student feedback. Student feedback is often collected at the end of a course, and this is in fact part of the audit process. In Singapore, this is part of what we call the EduTrust process. If you are a school that is recognized by the Ministry of Education and you are governed by the Council or the Committee of Private Education, which is a governing body to govern all the private schools in Singapore, including the international school that I work at. This is a very important criterion in EduTrust, collecting feedback from the students. And in fact, anonymous surveys are encouraged because this reduces the risk of positive bias and it provides valuable insights into teaching effectiveness and the student experience. A student does not want to feel victimized or disadvantaged if he or she give a less than favorable rating to the teacher delivering the class. And so anonymous surveys are important in ensuring that. It is also important to have regular check-ins and feedback sessions between the teacher and the evaluator, i.e. the immediate supervisor or even the school leadership like the principal and the vice principal or the head of department. This feedback will support the teacher in his or her teaching journey. What about professional development? It is very important that that teachers are given ample professional development opportunities. If you are kind of like shortlisting a teacher for a bigger role, one of the telltale signs is that you send this teacher for some leadership training, right? But however, the HR manager should plan for workshops, seminars, and training programs to ensure that's continuous improvement. In fact, the school leadership and the HR manager should work certifiable hours into the entire HR development plan for the teacher when looking at professional development opportunities. At the school that I work in, it is mandatory for the teacher to complete 2 online courses, and this we are looking at 2 online courses that I'm referring to in my international school that I work at is child protection and safeguarding. I work at a primary school and we take this very seriously, the safeguarding process. So we have to complete those training courses because it's part of the certifiable hours as a teacher. The other forms of assessment that we look at, and that is the stakeholders rating. The stakeholders obviously refer to the investors in the company or key stakeholders holding an appointment in the company. There is also the multi-source appraisal that includes stakeholders as well as external stakeholders like vendors. JEB, which has, that I've mentioned earlier, that has a 100-year history, and therefore that also offers 100-year perspective into its research articles. It has published research by these authors, Lawler, 1967, and London and Smithers, 1995. In fact, there are lots of articles in JEB, and JEB has contributed significantly to this whole process of IO psychology and looking at performance performance management systems. All these articles suggest that feedback from multiple sources could influence subsequent goals as well as a teacher's performance. That kind of like ends my discussion on how a well-designed PMS could influence a teacher in the classroom and how effective a teacher can be in the classroom. I also want to add that recognition and rewards like the Best Teacher of the Year award could significantly impact how the teacher perform, as well as giving incentives like maybe extra allowance if a teacher is appointed to a bigger role like a head of school on top of the base pay would be very effective and a strong motivation to do well. Pay being paid at the market rate as well as given sufficient incentives for putting in the extra hours for a bigger role obviously would encourage the teacher to perform better. Other rewards are kind of like intrinsic, like job satisfaction, a very high level of happiness at work, better student engagement, the right culture, the right, uh, a good working environment, a well-stocked pantry. Yeah, all of this adds to a well-designed, all of this kind of like contribute to the overall well-being of the teacher. In fact, in our school, we also practice like well-being Wednesdays, and we have a regular check-in with the principal every Friday with an online assembly. All of this help to keep us in check and keep us happy and contribute to a better working environment. Happy teachers make happy students, and a well-oiled organization, a happy organization brings in more profits for everyone, making everyone happy because we would all be rewarded at the end of the day. So again, just to recap,